So I thought we were gonna, I thought we could walk through the action plan.
Yes,
It's not really that long.
yes.
And does anybody have any comments they want to make before we start doing that? Any big picture comments?
I thought this was better.
It's better. It's still, I gotta say, it's very general. There's some specifics, but there's a lot of, I guess I expected a little more specificity on some things. I'll point out especially where I felt that, but
So it's organized by the 4 goals.
Yep.
Safety, connectivity, vibrancy, and culture.
Culture.
And then within each one, you have the measures of effectiveness and then the actions. So the first goal is safety. Do you want me to go through every one, or do you want to just tell me if you have comments on any of these? Or I'm not, I guess we'll see what the best way to really take your input is on this.
Oh, so Laura, what's our objective coming out of this meeting? What is it that we're hoping to achieve? Are we just looking for a consensus approval of the action plan? Are we looking to send back improvements or suggestions? What's your sense of how we can use this time?
Well, if there was consensus and approval, that would be great. But if people wanted to make specific suggestions about things they want to change or see that aren't in here, or take things out that are in here, now would be the time to do that.
All right, so in terms of the suggestions, they can either be high level or specific. If they're specific, that might suggest we go through each item. I'm not quite sure how people want to proceed or what level of feedback we want to provide.
I just wanted Sheila to explain what she meant by specific, what exactly what tone, what she wanted that was different. Was it in the tone? Was it in the...
I think I was looking for more suggestions on specifics on certain things, and maybe they're not the right people to give it. Maybe I'm.
But
it's
like
just
what?
that.
Can you give me an example?
So the one that I really can't. I totally agreed with Laura on this one. She put in a comment: improve safety and connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians into and through.
Can you give us a page number?
So on the infrastructure, on the safety, page 1. Oh, page 2. Safety, goal is safety. Action step number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a medium term time frame. And it says improve safety and connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians into and through Watertown Square. So that's all they said. Then Laura added, look at primary pedestrian and bicycle desire lines such as Church Street and Green Street. Like, that's what I meant by specificity. There needs to be more direction about what actually makes for an effective bicycle and pedestrian desire line like this versus just safety and connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians through Watertown Square. I mean, that's like.
But I thought Watertown Square was already separate, that there was a special, isn't there a special committee or something, Laura, that's redesigning Watertown Square?
And pedestrian for cars.
What?
For cars?
Cars.
Oh, for cars.
Yeah. I mean, they're looking at the bike pedestrian stuff as part of it, right, Laura?
And then there's also another thing, which is the community path through the back of Watertown Square, which I'm also trying to.
I can't hear you, Laura.
Really?
I turned up my own.
All right, you know, this, if you really can't hear me, I will
Much
just
better.
set them on. Is that okay?
Much better.
It's better when you're closer.
All right. So there's also we're trying to move forward on the community path, which would involve sort of making a pedestrian and bicycle path through the parking lots in the back there,
Right.
from Solmstad
Right.
Park over to Mount Auburn Street.
Right.
So that is also happening. We are working on that.
Right.
So there's two things. But the primary Watertown Square redesign is really more about the cars, because it's
Who's
so
doing
difficult
the
to find
redesign?
I mean, let me qualify that. It's very, very difficult to find a safe way to bring bikes through there without it impacting traffic pretty negatively, which is
You
also
know, you know, Laura, that's interesting, and I understand that, but we have to plan that there will be bicycles there. People are going to ride through, and if they don't plan for it, it's going to disturb the traffic even more. So we have choices always, and the choice here is, do we ignore it and not plan for it, or do we plan for it and figure out how to minimize the impact? Either way, you know, we are going to have bicycles going through Watertown Square. And anybody who doesn't believe that,
unless we absolutely and carefully plan alternative routes.
even then, Sheila, you will not have people not go through there for the simple reason they will want to go across the river.
Well, it's not only go across the river, but if you're coming along the path on the Watertown side, you have no choice. You have to go through what? Well,
Yeah.
those of us who know better know how to get around it, but you know.
So I think we just have to assume that there will be people going through there.
I hear you. Got it. I hear you.
So
Can
anyone,
I
so
make a process suggestion?
Yeah.
For the plan, that maybe we can go page by page. I think it
Yeah.
would take a really long time to go back through each action, but look at each page and see if people have comments. And I don't know if the hand raising works or if everyone can see that, but that might be a good way to do it.
Maybe who can display the sections or chapter 6?
Let me give it a shot.
I can probably share my screen.
So
'Cause I don't-
someone can share their screen.
We can start.
That
There
work?
we go.
There it
Oh,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Can we get the print any bigger?
I can try.
You just do command.
Uh,
I don't know let's see.
Oh, good, better,
Oh,
thank you.
yeah.
all right.
Oh,
No, don't worry. I'm just scrolling.
Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that I thought here as I went through this, I can't make it.
Hey, Andy, if you
Yeah.
click on the red lines to the left, you'll show Laura's comments or most, they're already there. So yeah,
Okay.
that's helpful.
And Andy, if you close the document recovery section, it might allow us to see more. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, can we pull it up a little bit so we see? Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay, so
Well, now we can just go to infrastructure.
I'm starting to regret volunteering to drive.
They're learning.
okay.
All right. So should we just jump in with the first goal, safety? Do we want to review the measures of effectiveness or just move right to the action items?
I thought the measures of effectiveness were pretty much on target.
Mhm.
And really in looking at this, this very first one, I was trying to figure out where they wanted marked crosswalk across Common Street north of Orchard. People do walk across at Bellevue.
Yeah, but that's, the speeds there, people are coming down off that hill. I'm
There is
not,
a crosswalk there, it's just kind of faded.
oh, sorry. I live in this neighborhood and I got to tell you, just pulling out of Bellevue onto Common, the speeds on, even with the roundabout, people come down that hill pretty fast.
Yes.
No slower because of the roundabout?
No,
No.
because you still have a ways to go before you get there.
What's
If they're
the
going
speed limit?
downhill.
Yeah. Yeah, downhill's the problem, not uphill. Uphill, great sidelines, but coming downhill, they're going fast and they've just crested the hill. So,
I live in that area too, and I try to cross with my grandsons, and yeah, it's kind of scary.
I
There
wonder
is-
if what we can do there is put in one of those lights that can flash. And sometimes you have a warning for those. Like if you're going out Beaver Street toward Bentley and you're coming from the Rotary toward Bentley, not from Watertown, but from Waltham. If you're coming from Waltham, going up the Beaver Street, up Beaver Street toward Bentley. As you approach that corner where the light is, there's a warning up ahead that tells you when the red light is turning, because otherwise you might not see it. So I'm wondering if part of what we need to do is that on the downhill, at the top of the hill, start warning people if somebody actuates a cross light, like one of those the yellow ones that flash, because people cross there.
At Bellevue.
Yeah.
Bellevue.
yeah, they do.
So if there's a way, if you're coming downhill, that you can get warned that, I think we can do something about this. I think Matt is only looking at it because he hasn't thought through other options, but there has to be other options.
Well, I think he's looking at the recommendation as it is. If that was reworded to say, provide automated warning lights. I mean, then it would be sort of a different recommendation, and I'm sure that he'd reconsider that. So, I mean, as it is, I agree with him. But I like the suggestion.
It's not an additional crosswalk, it's to make the existing crosswalk more visible.
There isn't a crosswalk there, Laura, but
Yes,
people
there is.
cross because they're going from one side of Bellevue to the other side of Bellevue. Okay.
Laura says there is a crosswalk there.
I thought there was.
I
I'll look
don't-
at my way in tomorrow.
I don't remember seeing one there.
I don't
No.
think there's one.
No, I'm pretty sure there isn't. So if there's a way that, I think there are ways that we can do this. I
So
think
I
it's a
think-
good recommendation because people cross at Bellevue.
So it
Okay.
sounds like we want to rework that to say evaluate, or not evaluate, create a means of having a marked signalized crosswalk.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
couple of things. I'm looking at the satellite image. There's crosswalks along Common, but no crosswalks across Common.
Yeah.
So Maria, it's a matter of rewording this
Yeah.
recommendation.
Laura, can we reword this?
To say what?
That we need to look at other options in terms of signalized crosswalk at Bellevue with a warning, an uphill warning, so that people slow down.
Or,
This one
God forbid we put a raised crosswalk there.
or a raised crosswalk. Something, people cross there. This is not unusual. I see people crossing there. We have to figure out how to make it safer.
Okay,
But I think this gets back also to what Sheila was saying and what I wonder about the tone of this. Are they supposed to give us exact ways of solving whatever problems? I mean, like you said, improve Watertown Square, do you think they need to specifically say what their ideas are about doing that?
I think that sometimes they need to give better suggestions, yes.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of this is rather redundant. Some of it's rather redundant, and I think if there's a weakness in their approach, it's probably that.
It's too generic. It's too
Yeah.
general.
Yes, and it's too general. It's too
Yeah.
just sort of like fix up this or,
Yeah.
you know, and, but that's, I don't know if they think that's what they're supposed to be doing.
So, since we're talking about getting across Common Street, there's been all the constant work on the roundabout at Common and Orchard. Is there a crosswalk there?
Yes.
Yes, you go around. You don't go
Okay.
across.
You go around, okay. Yeah, I haven't walked through there since they've done it all.
Susan, it is wonderful. I ride my bike through there every day. Before that, I would avoid, I avoided that intersection at all costs, but now it's just magical. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I live up above Bellevue, so I had to, set at the roundabout, but that's good to know.
Yeah.
We better move on, guys, because otherwise we're not gonna.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on that page?
Yeah, I want to know why the time frame for the third one went from short to long. Why are the implement signal and signal design improvements now long term? That's a pretty, that's right smack right Watertown Square.
I think that, I don't remember exactly the discussion around that, but I want to say that maybe they felt like they had looked at it and, for some reason it wasn't, I don't want to say because I'm not really sure. I can't
Maybe
remember.
we can find out why.
Okay.
So I would also like to add that for the Watertown Square, that there be something more specific about managing bicyclists and pedestrians from either side of the path on the Watertown side of so it may be wayfinding, it may be
So, what, I'm not completely following, Sheila.
if you're coming, say, from Waltham on the Watertown side of the river and you come up to Watertown Square,
Okay,
you have to do a lot of jumping around to figure out how you get across.
okay.
You have to go over to the left, cross in front of the bikes at the bus. You're on the sidewalk. You have to ride up to the next signal, which means you have to cross another light there where people are so busy trying to take the right turn. Then you have to wait for the signal where people run the red light regularly. And then, and they run the red light when the pedestrians are crossing just to make it across the street. So that line of connection for people to go from one side of Galen Street to the other really needs to be looked at.
I think that's a great suggestion, Sheila. You're right. Saturdays when I come back, there's a ton of people crossing there and it's formidable. I mean, you've got 6 lanes of traffic. Yeah, you're right. And how to get there.
And just how to get there. If you don't know, you have to go, what do I do?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good.
Okay.
Be a simple improvement and would have a big impact, I think.
The other one I have is on the bicycle facilities on Orchard Street. Now, this one, not only do I not understand the cost, I don't understand the time frame. Because there are things that we can do here. We're very good with paint. we should be able to fairly quickly restripe Orchard Street, given the width. Okay,
Well, Maria, I ride that every day now, and I'll tell you, going west is a breeze. You're right. There's plenty of room to stripe a bike lane,
Yeah.
and it's wide open. It's wonderful. Coming back though, it's not quite the same experience
I
because,
agree.
well, yeah, because you have
Parking.
there's the parked cars for that short section that throws. If you're on a bike, you have to go out into the street.
Yes.
So yeah, that's problematic, I think. But yeah, I mean, if it weren't for that, Orchard Street would be a prime candidate
Well,
for.
One of the things I was thinking about, Andy, in that section where it narrows because people park.
Yeah.
I think we need to bring the bike lane into the main part of the street. So, you go around and then maybe move it back. I think we have to start thinking about the bike lane is in the middle part of the street in sections like that, because it is.
And Maria, you're right. It's so wide that you could actually shift the middle line north.
Yeah.
And you still have room for a bike lane, and then that would give you room for a bike lane on the south side. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
I think this one, I not only know and understand the cost, I don't understand the time frame. Why would this be long-term and why would it be so expensive?
It's just Kate, it sounds like.
I mean, we could start with paint. I mean, when they put up those, the parking further down, where it extends out in the street, when they put out those extensions where to make the pedestrian crossing better, that went up in a weekend practically.
Okay.
And then on Main Street, we're pretending a lot that we don't need protected and separated bike lanes, and that sharrows do much of anything. And at some point we have to stop pretending, because they don't mean anything. And until we have protected and separated bike lanes, it's going to be much harder for people.
Right. It's often just a matter of width and the will to give up parking, and you're not always going to find that. Even our most progressive town councilors have the will to do that. So
I think we have to start working on it really hard. I think it has to be part of we have to talk about our bike plan, beginning to do that, because otherwise it won't be. And we all have to admit that not everybody, people have to begin to think about this, because we are not going to be successful without it.
Right.
And I think we have to stop talking about sharrows altogether. They're useless.
Yeah, it's like false security. To your
Yeah.
point, Maria, a couple years back, I put a graphic together that showed a crash cluster on Main Street. And I think it was in 95, after they put in the dedicated bike lane, the crash cluster cleared up. So it could be coincidence. You know how statistics work.
Yeah.
But it's a convincing argument, I think.
I think we have to stop pretending, and we need to put in what we think we need. It is our bike plans. It's not DPW's. It is ours. Okay.
And I think people are going to look at this document, and so it should be as strong as we can get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I provided,
Absolutely.
protected, and separated. I think that you're right, Maria.
all right, let's move on to the next page.
All right.
6.3.
Policies for safety.
I love the first one. I like the online work order for request a system. Yeah, I don't care about whether it's DPW. I want a way to get this, so people can call in.
Call in or do.
There actually is a system, but it's not well publicized or understood. It's on the DPW webpage. You can put in a work order or ask a question now. But
My God, Laura, is there a way to bring it up to a more prominent page?
Well, I certainly can't do that. I think there's a desire on the part of certainly the council to improve that kind of thing in communications in general. And there's a new positions that are funded. They just haven't been filled yet. But I think that is going to get addressed.
Okay.
So rather than work with a homegrown solution, wouldn't we want something more generic and more accessible, like see-click fix, to be integrated? Is that a more specific goal to pursue?
I'm not sure in the bike plan if that's, I don't know. I mean, I think probably yes, but I don't know if that belongs here. I mean, it's really the generic, like the online work order request system is see-click fix, isn't it? I mean, that, I should say see-click fix is that, an online work order request system.
Correct, yep. It's mobile too, which is, I think, makes it a more effective solution if you can use your phone.
Yeah, and do it right when you're seeing a problem.
And take a picture.
Yes.
Well, as I said, I think that this is going to get addressed, so let's not spend a lot of time on this.
Okay.
So I have a comment on the action sort of in the middle of the page that says work with police department to ensure that traffic laws for all modes are followed. Some concerns about the sort of racial equity implications of that action. I think, since we first talked about this many months ago, I think my eyes and a lot of our eyes have probably been open to sort of the disproportionate impact that something like that can have on communities of color and Black people especially. And I know that some of the bike ped advocacy groups like Vision Zero and Safe Routes to School have actually been moving away from enforcement as something that they're really promoting. So I guess I just want to see if that's something that we really want to keep in here, or if it makes sense to remove that action.
Or how to phrase it, because
Well, I think this is more along the lines of trying to identify problem areas in town, not necessarily who, but more what. Does that change things? I mean, this is how you find out about crash clusters.
Well, so the way that I read that is sort of that the police department will ensure that traffic laws are followed. So they'll do that by, pulling people over, issuing tickets. So maybe it can be reworded to focus more on the locations rather than.
Yeah, Amy, I apologize. I was looking at the one above. I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry about that.
So this is Hannah. I have another comment about that one. I think that one can be read two ways, which are fairly different. One is the police will more aggressively ticket drivers, for instance, who park in the bike lane or cut off a cyclist. And the other is the police will ticket cyclists that go through stop signs and red lights. Both of which are worthy, both of which have equity concerns, but which are quite different in the meaning. So I think it would be worth clarifying that one, so that it is more implementable.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, there are two things that I would look at as one, how do we protect cyclists and pedestrians, and then how do we protect pedestrians so that people don't make a right turn and cut off a pedestrian? Okay, and how do we ensure that cyclists are safe riding through our town? So Laura,
we're not asking them to do anything for all modes. We're asking them to enforce the car and vehicle laws to protect pedestrians and bicycles.
So maybe to word it that way, to say, to ensure that traffic laws are applied to protect bicyclists, to protect the safety of bicyclists and pedestrians. And there still exists the equity issue because, of course, that's the bias that's inherent in the people who are doing the enforcement.
Right.
And Amy's right. I mean, that's an issue. On the other hand, I mean,
Maybe the way we address that part is that, and it's not that we do traffic enforcement, but also that we publish, you know, the enforcement. I mean, publish metrics about how many people got stopped, what kind of tickets, and the race of the people that are getting stopped.
Can I point out also that there's an equity issue in leaving cycling and cycling and walking dangerous? Not just an equity issue for cyclists and bicyclists, but because cyclists and pedestrians in particular, I believe, non-motorists are more likely to be female, more likely to be low income, more likely to be non-white. So there's an equity issue in not enforcing as well,
Right.
which would lead me to tend to agree with, yeah, enforce, but be very transparent about how you enforce, and that will create a self-correcting system there.
See, that's why you need metrics.
Right, exactly.
And I don't feel like in Watertown that's true, that walkers and cyclists are more likely to be people of color. That's not my observation. Do you guys think?
Laura, I think there's a lot, you'd be surprised the number of people. It's and I've seen a lot of Latinos actually on bikes going to work.
yep, I do too.
Riding their bike to work in Watertown?
Yeah. Yep.
Or
Yeah.
through Watertown.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe we can reword this one. I think adding in like the, you know, to promote safety for bicyclists and pedestrians would help, and maybe also just, I don't know exactly what the phrasing would be, but at least something to acknowledge that the equity issue is there and that there needs to be transparency.
Can we move on, or?
I just wanted to just raise a question. Some of the offenders, bicycling offenders particularly, with running red lights and so forth, are young people. So I don't know how, if that's how you enforce differentially, or should you, for let's say a 14-year-old who's bicycling recklessly.
I think
going
that's
through
more
red
of an
lights.
education issue. We need to teach people how to ride their bikes. We don't do that. I'd rather take that from an educational.
Yep. Well, I wonder, yeah. So it's just something to be mindful of, that,
Yeah.
that we're talking, when you got teenagers, you kind of
Oh,
got
no.
some different issues.
No, I know. I see them all the time. I want to stop them and shake them.
And that's a real concern for a lot of older people, is the recklessness of the way kids, boys mostly, ride their bikes.
Can we go back for a moment? And there's one in here about the ADA and the key corridors and the bicycle and pedestrian crash clusters.
Well, even before we go to that, can we take a quick, the Vision Zero, giving it a short-term time frame? I would like it to be a short-term time frame, but given that we can't even get restaurants having some space on the roads, I think it's a medium or long-term time frame.
Yeah. We're going to have to do a lot of
We
training
could
with our
develop a
police
policy.
department.
So maybe
Just to have the conversation.
Yeah.
We still can't get a snow shoveling.
It's coming.
For some.
Eventually.
Yeah. On the corridors, on the next one, in terms of the corridors. Now, I thought that we had seen an audit of the major corridors in town, looking at the condition of the sidewalks and the roads. Is my memory fault bad? Did
There
we
is
not?
something, I think it's called like the pavement management program, something like that. Are you talking about a DPW document?
Yes.
There is a DPW document like that, yeah.
So can we leverage that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that has all the major streets, and in fact, all the streets, and an assessment of the sidewalks. So this could be short term. This is, and it cannot be that many dollars because we're already doing this.
Okay.
And on the crash clusters, are we applying for this money? Laura, do you know?
We have applied for, if this is what I'm thinking of, this is over on Galen Street, Watertown Street, Nonantum Road. We have a project with MassDOT, and that is, I think, the biggest crash cluster over there by Watertown Street and California Street. There was a recent fatality there, right? 2 years ago, maybe. So yes, we have applied for that program in that intersection. That MassDOT program is not something that's fast, that is like every year or anything like that. You get in there and it takes years for them to, you have to do your plans. It's similar to the Mount Auburn Street project, that kind of scale. So yes, we're doing that in that one location.
So are they saying here that we should continue to apply for, as we have bicycle, as we do the evaluation of bicycle and pedestrian crash clusters?
Well, I guess I put in continue to because we already have one application in, but maybe that's not the right way to say it. All right, I'll look at wording that. Maybe I'll say something to the effect of
Okay.
address bicycle and pedestrian crash clusters. One way would be through the APSA program.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Go ahead.
Connectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under safety. Oh, no, go ahead. In there that should be under connectivity, I think.
Guys, on this very first one, prioritize neighborhood sidewalk improvements. Why is this triple dollars? I mean, sidewalks are nowhere near as expensive as roads.
Oh, you'd be surprised by that because concrete is more expensive than asphalt.
Right, and also the curbs
And
are,
a lot of places we don't have curbs.
right, and they're very expensive.
Yeah, the
Okay.
granite curbs are very expensive.
Yes.
All right, I was just trying to think, we're already doing this. Okay.
I also had a comment on both that one and the next one of just sort of, I think this goes to Sheila's comment from the beginning. It feels like these don't have a lot of specifics in them, like prioritize neighborhood sidewalk improvements over what, or in what way is it being prioritized? Is there funding tied to this? Or I just felt like it needed like another sentence or some more detail.
Right, what are the steps to get there?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what should be our criteria for prioritizing neighborhood sidewalk improvements? If we go back to that DPW's event, what did you call it, Laura? Maintenance? DPW maintenance document or something?
Program.
Okay. It looked at all the sidewalks throughout town and put and assess them. So we need to come up with criteria. We're going to need criteria to say, what are the sidewalk improvements that are more important? How do we tie this into the ongoing maintenance program for the town?
Right.
Is that a document that lists all the sidewalks?
Yeah.
Have criteria for describing, are they 1, 2, 3 or something like that?
It is, yes.
But that, what it doesn't have is why are some sidewalks more important than others? And where
Yeah,
in
they don't
town,
prioritize them then.
right? And where in town do we have the worst sidewalks? Because if I remember correctly, there are many places in West Watertown where the sidewalks are in terrible condition.
Well, it's
So-
true for East Watertown too, Maria.
What?
That's
It's
the
true for
question.
East
Do we
Watertown,
prioritize
too.
where there are no sidewalks? Do we prioritize with sidewalks in the worst condition? Do we prioritize near schools? Do we prioritize near bus stops? I mean, there are many.
There we go.
Okay.
That's what we need to look at.
This is
Yeah.
Hannah. Let me add, I think one reason this needs to be more specific is there are, in this conversation, I see two completely different interpretations of what these words mean right now. So Amy, I think from what she said, and I, from what I was reading, saw this as prioritize the sidewalk improvements over something else, like make it more important than some other expense. Whereas the other person who was talking, was that Sheila maybe? I'm sorry, I can't remember who, was talking as though it meant make a prioritized list of sidewalk improvements compared to other sidewalk improvements. And these are completely, they're both worthy, but they're completely different recommendations. So that's in and of itself is a reason to figure out which they meant or which we want it to mean, and then to specify that.
Yep.
And same for the next one, which I think can also have two meanings.
Hmm.
What do we want it to be?
Right.
Well, I think, I think it's difficult to say you prioritize it over other things because we don't know what those other things are to say. Does that mean you prioritize it over building affordable housing, with money from the state or something? Because they're both equally important. So I think if we say we want to see criteria for how these priorities get implemented, using a multi-faceted priority system that ranks, like ranked choice voting, that ranks, it's near a school, it's near a senior center, it's close to public transit, that ranks all of those and then creates, more priorities based on, okay, if we have a choice of we do it here versus, oh, this is a street where it's safe for people to walk without having to worry about being in the street, versus, oh, lots of kids will use this street or it's near a senior center. I think that ought to take more priority.
So Laura, isn't this part and parcel of the Complete Streets process to prioritize different initiatives?
Yes, there was the Complete Streets prioritization plan. I can't remember how it addressed this issue. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that there's a committee that's supposed to review all of the projects and prioritize them, and then I forget, you pick the top 20 or something like that, and that's what you submit to for funding. Again, I know we talked earlier, I have to go back and reacquaint myself with the whole Complete Streets program, but so if we're talking in terms of prioritizing projects with respect to order of importance, I think that might be covered in the Complete Streets program.
But that doesn't necessarily address things like sidewalk improvements,
Oh,
because that's going to cover other things as well. I think the issue is, if we're saying here we want to prioritize sidewalks specifically, we need some criteria by which those choices get made.
well, but again,
could this be reworded to something like, develop a prioritized list of neighborhood sidewalk improvements and implement the improvements for the highest priority locations or something like that?
But
So
that's,
it's developing the list and it's starting to implement for the high priority.
Mhm.
but I think that's what Complete Streets does.
Well, then could we say like in coordination with the complete streets? I
Okay.
think the issue is that just how this is worded right now is really unclear and doesn't get to what we want.
Okay.
Amy, say it again just so I can.
We'll see if I can say it again. Something like, develop a prioritized list of neighborhood sidewalk improvements and start to implement the high priority in coordination with Complete Streets plan or something along those lines.
Well,
And I think that the next recommendation could have something similar.
Yeah, or maybe they can even be combined.
Yeah.
Although, between neighborhoods and destinations, I think tries to get to the fact that that's a way to prioritize is to pick locations that bring people somewhere that people want to go, like to Watertown Square or to schools or to the bus stops or to the parks.
And that is very much in Complete Streets.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could be the same.
but then the town has a list of streets that they're redoing. And when they redo a street now, they redo all the sidewalks
Yes.
and the green strips and the trees and everything. So who makes up that list and how is that prioritized?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Janet. It's as if I had planted that question. Because I wanted to tell everyone that on Thursday, the Public Works Committee is reviewing the next year's street list of street and sidewalk improvements. I have not seen the list, so I can't tell you anything about it, but that's an important meeting for you guys. You might want to go to that meeting and hear what they have to say and maybe inject your, I was going to say your prejudice, but that's not the right word, but your preference for that bike facilities be incorporated and that sidewalks be a higher priority. I mean, I think it'll be a good chance for you to learn how they think and what input the council has. So I would highly recommend that people attend that meeting. It's on Zoom, so you don't even have to take off your pajamas.
Yeah.
Can you send us the link?
Janet, it's at the bottom of today's meeting.
It is the date, but it's not the Zoom link. For the Zoom, you have to go onto the town calendar.
Are you kidding? Okay.
All right, so all you have to do is go to the town website and the calendar is down below. Click on the meeting and follow the link that clicks until you get to the agenda.
Okay.
And it's at 7:00.
It was a miserable time. Okay.
Okay, should we keep moving?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other? Oh, I'm trying to scroll down, but it's
Oh, yeah. Can you scroll down?
Yeah.
Charles River Path. Provide an east-west bike route. Charles River Path and Western. Yeah.
I don't know what the one about an east-west alternative. There is. I mean, isn't that Pleasant Street? What else could there be? There isn't any other east-west road that goes. Well,
Main
that's
Street.
California Street.
No, I think we're looking at Howard.
That is north-south, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's right. That's north-south, east-west.
So
Oh.
I think it's meant to be like an for overflow when the bike path is too crowded, which it does get crowded.
Yeah. So Pleasant Street, but isn't Main Street also a possibility?
Mhm.
Yeah, that would have to be the other one.
A little far away, but yeah.
Where's the agenda? Okay.
Yeah, so Pleasant Street would be the,
Well, you've got Waltham Street that runs from Gore to Pleasant.
yeah, but that's north-south.
No, Waltham Street is east-west, but it's not very long. And what,
Oh,
it might be long in Waltham.
Yeah, but you get to avoid the Pleasant Street unpleasantness.
Right.
yeah.
It's funny because Arlington has an unpleasant street also.
It does, I agree.
Yeah.
Unpleasant Street.
Is California Street in Watertown? I thought it was in Newton.
Some of it is in Newton and some of it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I've ridden on that. It's not the best, but it's a pretty wide street, so it could be opportunities.
That's true.
That when you get to Watertown Street, though, that's a dangerous intersection there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, but you can pick up the bike path at that point, but then you have to cross over to the sidewalk, which there's no good connection there. It's actually, no, there is the sidewalk. Believe me, I've done that where you come on Watertown Street. I mean, California Street, and then you click over onto the sidewalk to pick up the path across. But, yeah, it's,
Okay. I'm sorry. It is 8:30, so let's maybe we
yeah,
should
so we better go.
move along.
If there's a way I can post the address for Thursday's Zoom meeting, but I'm trying to figure out how do I do that.
Yeah, I think everybody else can find it.
Let me see if I can find the show grid.
Sure.
thumbnail. Let me see.
Okay. Well, let's keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
I just under policies, the last one here, advocate to DCR to improve condition of Charles River path. I was wondering if we wanted to include the self-serving thing in here about Little Greeno in particular.
And what would you say about Little Greeno? Little Greeno or?
Improve condition of Charles River path. I mean, it could even be something like including on Greeno Street between Arsenal and North Beacon, just so we have, you know, another thing to point to that says that it needs to be improved there.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I was putting on my sweater, so I did not write down what you said. Could you say it again? Improve conditions on Charles River Path.
In particular on Greeno Boulevard between, or including on Greeno Boulevard between, I think it's Arsenal and North Beacon.
Instead of associated connection, is that where we are?
So is there a reason we can't go further than that? Do we have to not say anything about reclosing Little Greeno because we have to stay with sort of what came out of the process with the consultant, in particular this plan?
I guess even though you guys have said that you don't think this is specific enough, that almost feels a little too specific to me. But you know.
Sorry. Is it my sound or are other people hearing Laura okay?
I can't do anything about it. Can't.
Laura, it's hard to hear you.
Oh, I don't know what it is. I just said that I thought that maybe that might be too specific. The Greeno Boulevard, closing Greeno Boulevard, but I defer to your, what you guys want. I like the way Amy worded it. So maybe we should not spend too much more time on this. I'll add the Greeno Boulevard language. And you got that too, right, Sheila?
Yeah,
All right, I'm gonna ask you to send me your notes tomorrow.
yeah. I'm doing my best to
Thank you. All right, goal, culture. This one I did not have a lot of comments.
I like your idea, make it well, it is culture change, but culture is fine.
Yeah.
And
It
one of the
requires changing in a lot of places.
Yeah. On the second one, evaluate and communicate progress on this plan. We need to figure out what it is that we evaluate. I mean, how do we determine progress? We need some metrics, we need something.
That's a good point, Maria. I mean, that's so vague, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just sort of look at the end of the year and say, yeah.
I wonder if there is something in the plan about that. I feel like there is, like miles of action plan.
I mean, even to say something like communicate progress against the, I can't remember what they were called, criteria or objectives or something, the part that's above each of these tables.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Hannah.
It's not perfect, but it's an improvement.
Yeah. Or maybe that was Amy.
That was Hannah.
No, that's Hannah.
Okay.
We could, I mean, if we want to do more than that, then we need to make the objectives, you know, measurable and time bound and all that sort of smart objective stuff, which is great, but it's an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
And you also run the risk of getting sort of
Bogged down.
yeah, or getting sort of like, I used to live in a place where the metric was meters of bike paths. So they would put in bike paths that would go for like 120 meters and then stop. So that got the 120 meters of bike paths. Didn't go anywhere. So, but if you don't have something at least along the lines of, you know, against the objectives or something, then it's easy to say, well, all right, we did a little, we can sort of check that one off kind of thing.
So maybe what we really need to do is on this one, let's have a little group that puts together some proposed metrics based on what we have here in the plan in terms of the measures of effectiveness.
So I think
I'm just looking in the issues and opportunities section. There's something called measures of effectiveness. And so you have a goal, develop a safe network, measure of effectiveness, bicycle level of stress 3 or less, increase the number of ADA compliant crossings and pedestrian signals, reduce the number of bicycle and pedestrian crashes, increase safe school participation and funding. So
That sounds good, Laura.
yeah, it's not super specific, but it does kind of get to how to address it.
Mm-hmm.
right, it's not super specific, but at least it's based on the results, the outcomes, not the outputs, right? It's not create more meters of bike path.
Right, it's not that.
So
Right.
they are already, it's already in the plan.
Yeah, under issues and opportunities, measures of,
Remember that.
you might want to look at that at some future time.
That language also appears, I think, at the very top of the action plan. I remember us going over something like that.
The implementation or something. Measures of effectiveness. Oh boy, this is really hard. You don't mind me saying.
We'll have to take a look at it. Maybe I like the idea of having a little group that maybe a little subcommittee and we can go through and try to come up with it doesn't have to be a huge number, maybe 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
So Maria, this would be kind of an annual scorecard.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. You know, it would have to be a standing working group, I think.
We may need to do something, even if the first part of it is can we come up with, just a small number of key metrics that we can publish, or we can do something with?
What do other cities around here do, the ones that have bicycle and pedestrian plans?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It is a good question. I haven't seen anything from other groups published or publicized.
I
Doesn't
think
mean it.
Cambridge has something.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Well, they have a department that works on this. So.
Yeah. It feels to me like it's a sentence put in there to say, keep us in mind, keep this in mind, work with this. This is the way you can get things. So we can, say we need this. If we look at it at the end of the year and nothing's happened, we have something to fall back on.
Yeah. So we need to, I thought this is a critical thing. Because you will not move forward unless you can measure something.
Well,
I guess you're right.
and we are by charter required to report back to town council every year. So it would be nice to have a scorecard to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do we change the language of this item? Did we already suggest something and Laura noted it down? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we're ready to move on, I just had a minor comment about the blue bikes action, that maybe in addition to recommending additional locations, we could add something about, promoting and spreading the word of existing stations.
Yes. Is it even on the town website?
Oh, boy. I'm waiting to have all of the stations to do publicity, but maybe I shouldn't wait any longer. We almost have the 4th, but there's still 3 more that are not installed yet. So I was thinking I would wait until they were all there to do, I was gonna do one of the newsletters. But
I think that's a good idea. They can't be too far
yeah.
away.
Well, let me ask you this. Can we use it as a series of announcements? Hey, we got this far now. Look, we got even further.
Right.
Holy tamale, we even got further.
This is another thing that I think the town is going to be working on, but isn't yet working on, is how to get information out to people. I mean, right now we have like news flash, we call it, but this didn't make the cut on that one. But we should do more promotion than we're doing. And like, who gets those anyway? Are people who would use Blue Bike? I don't know.
What about Facebook and all the social media?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's not my way of communicating, but certainly it's people's way of communicating.
Laura, is Newsflash that flyer that comes out with the property taxes?
I know that's the newsletter, and there is something about Blue Bikes in there this time. But again, read that. I don't know. Do you read
Yeah,
it?
it would be good to do it through social media, because if it went into things like Nextdoor, that's a good way to get it out to people in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And
That's
young
right.
people.
That's right. That's a good suggestion.
Okay. I believe we do have access to some social media. We're not the most social media
Savvy.
savvy, interested.
Well, it's very easy to put it in Nextdoor if we have an announcement.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So,
How long an announcement, Maria?
Usually a paragraph is helpful, like a good long paragraph. They often have something that comes out from the state or from that goes out.
Could it
And
be
it's
long
usually
enough
about a,
that it says where all the stations are?
Yeah,
yeah.
All right, I'll send
Sure.
it to you too. I'll write something short and send it to you too.
Laura, include me on that too, because I have access to post to the Watertown Bike Pedestrian Facebook page.
yes.
Okay,
And if you have a photo, that's always helpful too.
do.
I was
Although-
gonna say
And
something.
in fact, if, put the link in there, and then that's part of what we can put. And there are different neighborhood, just because you put it, we put it in my neighborhood, doesn't mean it goes to West Watertown or East Watertown.
Okay.
Right. I think there's a way to get to the whole of those, but you have to get to the right people to post it.
So Jesse, an email with a picture in it, is that what you want?
That'd
Okay.
be perfect. Yeah, picture, description, whatever info you have, and I can boil it down for the post.
Okay, great.
Great.
Twitter, for
That's-
anybody who's on
That's
Twitter.
just for Facebook. I don't have a Nextdoor account.
Who has next?
Send it to Maria, Sheila, and Jesse, and between you.
Yeah, we'll figure out.
Hannah, where do you live? What neighborhood do you live in?
East Watertown, but I am on basically no social media whatsoever. That was
And Amy,
we're going.
where do you live?
I'm in East Watertown also.
Dope.
Amy,
I
did you sign up for next?
No.
It's very easy.
Yeah, write to me, Amy, and I can.
For Nextdoor or something
Yeah.
else? Yeah, I have an account. I could post it there.
Oh, okay, then I'll send it to you too. I might as well just send it to everybody.
Yeah.
Why don't you?
Any place
Because
to think of.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody in West Watertown that could post it.
Bevan Croft could post it, or Jessica.
Yep,
You know Jessica. Who's
yep, that's
I
right.
was actually thinking about, when the Bar Foundation, working with, I guess, both Watertown and Cambridge, did the bus lanes.
Yes.
They got permission from Mount Auburn Cemetery to post that big banner. I don't know whether it's still there or not. I don't know how much
It is.
that cost. But if we could put another banner next to that, it doesn't necessarily have to be that big, saying, new improvements, blue bikes are now in Watertown. Yes, you have to already be out on the street, but it's a place that people at the Star see, people going by there see. It made a big splash, I think, with the bus lanes.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have a budget for that. I mean, Bar had a big budget for publicity.
Yeah, I don't know, and those might be expensive.
And I think that's more.
Wait, Andy, come back.
Maria, I am just, while you guys are talking, I'm just looking ahead. All right?
Okay.
I'm trying to get a
All
sense
right,
of how much is left.
I'm just pointing out we've got 15 minutes or so to go, so we need to.
I wanted to know on the bottom of that page what the parking benefit district is. Is that part of the TDMA?
Can you make it a little bigger, Andy?
Sorry?
Can you make the type a little bigger?
A parking benefit district is after we do the parking meters, which will have a higher payment. What you can do is create like sort of a fund where the money, the net meter revenue goes into a fund, and then you can program it for use in that neighborhood so that the Watertown Square meter money goes to improvements in Watertown Square, and the Coolidge Square money goes for improvements to Coolidge Square. It's
Okay.
something that we would have to go through the council to do.
Well, this is good then. Let's make sure we put this in here. Okay.
Okay.
That snow clearance one,
Yeah.
how does
We're
that,
working on an ordinance for that, right?
Right.
No, this is different. This is for bicycle and sidewalk facilities.
It's
In other
partly
words-
different, it's partly not. So the only point I want to raise is we should make sure that this doesn't stitch us up on the ordinance, that this is not sort of conflicting or acting as if we don't know we're working on the ordinance. That's the only point I want to make.
Very
In
good point.
conjunction, in
And I think-
conjunction with an ordinance for
Yes.
clearing sidewalks.
Yeah, something like that.
There's no clearance for bicycle and sidewalk facilities. I think it does kind of, how would it conflict, Hannah?
It wouldn't conflict, but it's a little, I guess my concern is we're sort of acting subtle when we actually have a plan in our back pocket, which is not subtle at all. But I can also see it as it's perfectly fine, but then how does the bicycle part come in there? Like, are we talking about asking them to plow more? Like, what would that be?
And when you have separated bike lanes or you have bike lanes, make sure those get plowed.
Stay clear.
Yeah, same thing with the sidewalks, because the sidewalks that the town plows are usually in terrible condition after they plow it.
So
They do not do a good job.
if that's what we're after, should we be more specific here? I know we're trying not to get too specific, but this is an issue we have singled out as being worth a fair amount of effort.
Yeah. Laura,
I
how
guess
can we
this really
change that?
This really talks about what the town does to clear sidewalks and
Yeah.
bicycle facilities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do we establish criteria for success? Because right now, if we plowed our streets the way we plow our sidewalks where kids walk and adults walk, the town would be in an uproar.
Yeah.
They do a miserable job.
Well, Maria, you're on the committee, right, with me? The
On which
ordinance?
one? On which one, Janet?
The snow ordinance we're developing with Bob Shea?
Yeah, but this is different. This is what the town clears, not what residential areas. This is about the town, like they do Orchard Street
Well, they do schools.
and they do School Street. And if you try to walk on those streets after they have plowed, you better have crampons or something.
Yeah, I mean, it can be even true on Mount Auburn Street in front of my office. It can be pretty bad.
miserable.
Careful what you wish for, right?
So should we make this just slightly clearer by saying something like establish snow clearance and other means procedures for bicycle and sidewalk facilities, or improve snow clearance where this is
Yeah.
done by the town?
Yes,
I know improve is still a bit wishy-washy, but at least I think it's expressing more what you want it to mean, Maria.
yeah, because it really is bad.
So change establish to improve, and at the end put something like where this is done by the town. So then it does not encompass the snow clearing ordinance, but if we're talking about this plan as something for the town, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And on the very next one, I don't understand whether this is short term. Include walking and biking, yes, but this is ongoing. We need to start short term, but this needs to be ongoing.
Okay.
And it should be more, I don't know how to assess the cost.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, one is $1, two is $2, three is
Yeah, I couldn't figure out sometimes.
include walking and biking in the town's capital.
Oh my God, we're down to the last page after this.
Okay. Vibrancy.
Yeah, that line, the first line of the measure of effectiveness, reduce reliance on surface parking for travel. It's like, what do you mean?
That makes no sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense for travel. Surface parking for
No
travel.
roller skating to the parking lot.
It's like, do you mean let's have less public parking? Let's have less open parking spaces? Yeah.
What is the second one? Promote access to public land through private development. Does that mean incentivize developers to make some open public space?
I think like one of the areas that has had a lot of development is Pleasant Street, and all of Pleasant Street backs up to the river, and all the new developments have like some kind of public access, a way that you can get from Pleasant Street to the river, but it's not always so easy to see where that is, because some of them are kind of narrow. But
Yeah.
so I think at first their recommendation was that we should be creating public access, and I said, well, we have it in every new development. That is one of Gideon's very, very strongest desires, and he's negotiated that access on every new project that we've had.
Yeah.
But people don't know about it.
How, so
I never knew about that. So you can get from Pleasant Street to the river through one of those complexes?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the new one that's just about to come online, which is called Water Mills, it's at 330, 350 Pleasant Street, has two places where you can walk you can get to the Charles River from Pleasant Street.
Laura, there's also that project on Walnut Street, access from Walnut to Arsenal, and then
To Arsenal?
and Arsenal Yards. We negotiated the bike path through Arsenal Yards. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
So how about, I think this is one where it's so efficiently stated that it could be parsed in different ways. How about publicize existence of right-of-ways through private development to access public parks?
Or the river?
Publicize
Publicize existence of right-of-ways through private development to access public parks or public destinations. Now, if you don't like the term right-of-way because it's not technically a right-of-way, we can find another term.
No, it is technically a right of way, isn't it?
Technically a right-of-way, it's not an easement or whatever, okay.
Yeah, Laura, right? If they have granted to the town public access, it's a right of way. Sorry, that's my very small amount of legal knowledge coming out.
You could also say publicize existence of public access paths through private development to public parks or something.
Yeah, is it forever, Laura?
Yeah, then it's a right of way.
That is a right of way. Is there any way we could mark those?
Yep. I mean,
Some way?
we're trying
some
to do that
people-
better. We're trying to do that better.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I think that's good. Vibrancy, improvement.
Yeah. Again, again, this on the action steps here, promote new access points to Charles River Path from Arsenal Street through private development projects. It's not pointing towards the fact that we already have something going through the park. I understand they're trying to keep it general. They're saying short term, but it needs to be more specific.
Well, they're saying promote what we have.
How about just,
No, there's to promote new access points.
Well, again, it's how you interpret it.
Right.
Oh,
mean,
I
we
see
don't-
what you mean.
how about just
We don't-
publicize?
So maybe we say
I
publicize.
like publicized too.
Yeah, I think it's the latter because we already have a lot of access points. I mean, we have the park, we've got that right away along the new garage, we've got Talcott Street. So yeah, we already have the access points. I would imagine they're trying to say to promote.
Uh-huh, yep, okay.
awareness.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So then on the last one that we can see on this screen right now, continue to promote site connectivity. So that's the opposite meaning of promote. That doesn't mean publicize. That means push for more, right?
Yeah.
So then we should change the first to be something different so it's clear. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And identify connections to wayfinding signs. That's perfect. That gets around to what we were.
Exactly. Yeah.
can we go back to the one before that one? Improve pedestrian and bicycle facilities in Watertown Square and Coolidge Square, such as bike racks and benches. Is that what we really mean here by pedestrian and bicycle facilities? Are there more pedestrian and bicycle facilities? Because those are A, that's not long-term, and B, that's not $3 signs.
Yes, it depends on how many bike racks they put in.
Even then, it's not $3 signs.
If that's what she means, if she means bike racks and benches, that's not expensive. If she means a separated bike lane, that is more expensive.
But even
Now,
then,
what does
that's
facilities
still-
mean?
Yeah,
Right. I'm not sure what- I interpret that as bike racks and benches, but maybe I'm not sure now because I wasn't looking at the dollar signs.
and that is not long-term either.
Well, Maria, is this the opportunity to put in a bit of
Yeah.
what we were talking about earlier about pushing for a bigger vision for Watertown Square?
I think it might be, and Coolidge too.
Yes.
I think we have to take a bigger look at this one here.
And it's excellent to put it here because we can sort of say, well, that's what the consultant recommended, right? Like there's a bit of cover.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they use that several times, bicycle facilities, and I didn't quite understand what they
And-
meant by that.
Yeah, and earlier on, it sounded like they meant facilities as in on-street, or trails or paths or lanes. So it's not clear.
Okay.
And we can certainly include bike racks and benches. Absolutely, because that's got to be part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think we want the
Right.
path.
Now,
That's just part of it.
now that I look at it, this is under vibrancy, not connectivity or safety. So maybe I think under vibrancy, we are talking about benches and bike racks.
Yeah.
You're probably right, yeah.
So we need to know what they had in mind under pedestrian and bicycle facilities.
Okay.
In terms of vibrancy. Yeah.
Yeah. In general, just because they put $3 sign, I thought, what?
It's good that you looked at that because I wasn't paying such close attention to that column.
I didn't either. It's interesting.
More at the words. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah.
That was hard. Good job, everyone.
Oh, wait, the last two here on under policy. Sorry. Comprehensive view of the Watertown zoning ordinance and bicycle parking guide. I don't see those as $2 signs unless we're hiring a consultant. And even then, it's still $1.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I don't know what medium term is, but we have to do this.
Which thing do you think we have to do? There's a lot of things there actually.
I think we have to do a comprehensive review of the zoning ordinance and the design guide. Maybe that's really medium term, and maybe that's where we have to think about bringing back a consultant to do that. I don't know that we can do that ourselves, and Laura, I don't know that you have time to do that.
Maria, to what end? Review zoning ordinance and design guidelines to do what?
To coordinate and streamline requirements for improving bicycle and pedestrian access, reducing parking requirements, incurring mode shift. I think exactly what they're talking about here. we need to look at our zoning ordinances and our design guide to look at pedestrian and bicycle accommodations, to look at reducing the requirements for parking. We've talked about all of these things. This will kind of bring it together.
Okay. I mean, to me, the thing that really is needed is the reducing the parking requirements, but the other stuff is a little bit more art than science.
Yes. And for art and science, sometimes you need criteria. And then the next one is about developing a bicycle parking guide. And I think that could, those two, they're here separate, but I think the way we'll implement them, we need to look at going out for another piece of work, because I don't see anybody internally who can do this, Laura, unless you're going to get on top of the copier and hit copy, and out comes a new Laura. Because these are things that we need to be doing. This is the next follow-on, is to look at the ordinances, to look at the design guide and come up with changes to both and a bicycle parking guide.
Laura, and I guess Maria also, Laura, if your big thing here is reducing the parking requirements, it's hidden in a point that's good, but that's quite a mouthful. What do you think about asking them to break that out as a separate recommendation? Perform a comprehensive review of the Watertown zoning ordinance and blah, 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 with an eye toward reducing parking requirements. And in another one, you know, as part of this review, streamline requirements for improving bicycle and pedestrian access and encourage mode shift to active mode, so that it's not lost in a list of art and science.
Yeah, or at least take it out, make it its own sentence or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good.
But these last two items, I really do think is our next piece in terms of getting consultants, because we do not have the folks in our town government who have time.
Well, then it is $2 signs, Maria.
Yeah, no, and I don't have a problem with $2 signs here at all.
Yeah.
But even then, $2 signs for this. When I think of the town budget, $1 sign is under $100,000. I'm sorry. We have $1 billion government. $2 signs might be $1 million or multiple millions. $3 signs, maybe it's 20. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh my God, I think that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
9:05. Okay.
It's taken us a year.
I will thank you for giving it a really good fine tooth comb. It needed it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura, for continuing
Yes.
to push this forward.
Yes, Laura, you really have been
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you, Laura.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And Laura, if people call you for recommendations with this consulting company, I think we have to be careful.
All right.
I think they have strengths and substantial weaknesses.
Okay.
So is that a wrap, Laura? Are we
That's
good? All right.
I just to say one more time, a plug for the meeting on Thursday for next year's road plan.
If there's a way I can post the Zoom link, I'd be happy to do that. I just haven't figured out how to do that.
Post it where?
Is there a way we can share here? There's usually
Oh, in Zoom?
in Zoom, usually you can do, you know, I should be able to click on here and communicate with you. Oh, here's chat.
Yes.
Finally chat. Oh my God, I finally found it. I've been looking for it.
It doesn't exist in every Zoom meeting, so.
Yeah.
Laura, can you remind us what I saw the email, but what is, like, what's the road plan and what would we add to it by attending that meeting?
So the road plan is DPW's plan for what roads they're going to pave next year. And pave and maybe make changes, which might include, bump outs or bike lanes, make changes. It's their plan for what they're going to spend their money on next year. And, some of them might be small streets that you don't have any particular interest in, but some of them might be major streets, and you might find that maybe they were going to do a sharrow instead of a bike lane, for instance, or,
And you always hope it's your street.
Excuse me?
I said you always hope it's your street.
Right.
Well,
You're listening.
I put the, in the chat, if you can guys get to the chat, and don't ask me how I got to it now. I put in the link.
Oh, there it is.
Well,
I
if you
think
put it up there, doesn't it come
said
on? It's
At
up
the
here.
meeting today, like, how do they decide? This is how they decide. They take their list and they present it to the council subcommittee on public works. And this is sort of how all these decisions get made. And this is how.
And nobody challenges them.
If people don't go to the meeting,
Right.
And do you know if the list is going to be available before the meeting or they're just presenting it there?
It might get attached to the agenda.
Let me go back to the agenda.
Yeah, go back to the agenda and see if it happens to be there. I'll bet it's not there. Oh, you know what? Matt doesn't work on it didn't work today. I know. So if nothing happened today, it could be tomorrow. Will it get published? I had thought he said he was going to send it to the Complete Streets Committee, which is Andy and Ethan, but includes Andy and Ethan, I should say, but I don't think he's done that yet. But it's
Maria, I can't copy that link.
Yeah, I don't know how you get this link to me.
Well, I
If
found
wanted
it.
to
I
use
got.
it right now, I could, but I can't. How do I get it?
I can't copy it, as far
Yeah.
as I can tell.
Yeah.
I've tried various ways, so
Okay.
I think we all just are going to have to go to the town and.
I don't see any other way around it. Just,
But if you have it, can you just email it to us?
well,
To the
better
bike
yet.
committee?
So Laura, does this meeting have an opportunity for public comment?
yes. Yes.
So they present to council, council is there, and then they let the councilors talk, and then they open it to the public?
Yes, generally speaking. Let me see if I can find my.
Dan Driscoll has been wanting his road fixed for years.
Tell them about the meeting, Jen.
Well,
I ask you one other
think he's
question,
done
Laura?
all of that, but he said that John Lawn Street got fixed very quickly. So there's this thing in town, Hannah. How long have you lived in Watertown?
What? I don't know.
There's this, Susan Falkoff got her sidewalks fixed.
Oh, I don't believe that.
You
I
don't
don't
think so?
I don't think you have to be important for, no.
Well, I know they do some streets that need it.
Laura, can I ask you, so like the planning board of appeals meetings start promptly at 7 and then they close them at about 10:30. So if you wait to have your chance to talk on the project you're interested in, you might be there, you might get to talk at 10:15. Are these like a set thing, or is it one of those ones where you might start but then have to sort of give up before they get to the public comment thing? Do you know how long they go?
I've only been to one. Matt, the town engineer, which for you would be interesting to see the town engineer. He will give a PowerPoint of the different streets, and I'm gonna guess there's gonna be maybe 10 projects. Could be, but probably not more than that. Could be fewer, but not more. And then I'm hoping an hour and a half.
Okay, so like 7:30 to 9 again.
Yeah, 7, starts at 7.
Oh, 7, okay, that's a bit more.
And, you might want to just come right at the beginning to see the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Laura,
I'm
what
gonna,
are they doing about the gas pipes? Are they
I don't know anything about the gas pipes. What gas pipe?
I thought there was something about when they tear up the streets now, they put in new,
That's definitely not my department.
okay.
I don't know anything about that. Except on the, under the community, oh no, that's water pipes, never mind.
Guys, I sent you
It'll
all,
be an education. You know, I really feel like this is the kind of meeting that you'll really see how the decisions are made.
yeah,
And you'll see the personality of 3 of the counselors. Often the other counselors come. You'll see what their priorities are.
And is this just an annual? There's only one shot a year to see this? All right.
In other words, it's important.
Thanks for explaining. Yeah. And if one can't go on Thursday, is there a comment period afterward, or this is your shot?
There is, I'm sure there's a way that you can make a comment, yes.
I'm sure there is, yeah.
And as Andy
Has to be.
said, they archive the meeting, so you can watch it if you have the intestinal fortitude. Want to really spend the time. I suppose you could fast forward it if you were doing it on your own.
All right. Thank you.
and I sent out an email, responded to Laura's email with the link.
Yep. Got it.
Okay, great. Okay,
All right.
are we good, Andy?
I think so, unless there's anything else anybody feels that they need to share with the group. Anything? All right, so unless there's objections, I say we're adjourned.
Okay.
Adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Hi,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good week.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.